Hello everyone, Mark is here, the Elemental Living Group. This is the Sunday wrap-up, basically wrapping up the week. We've been talking about sound and frequency and the healing qualities of sound and frequency. And we touched on a lot of different ideas. And one that I'm gonna demonstrate a bit today is the use of sound on the exhale, using vibration right here in the voice box in our inner core on the exhale. Now, why frequency? Why sound? What does it do for us? Well, there are great people in our history who have pointed it out. Edgar Cayce was a medium who channeled a lot of information, and he talked about the future of medicine being vibration. Einstein also mentioned it, also said that in the future medicine will be frequency. And so when you have great minds like that coming together and saying things like that, you say to yourself, there must be something to it. We quote all these great names and all these great people for what they contribute. And so what does that mean? What does sound and frequency mean in terms of medicine? Well, one of the great historic events that we can look at is the Royal Rife story, which is a sad story. Royal Rife had developed frequencies for destroying viruses and bacteria and cancer cells. In this world of bioresonance, we are all frequency. We are frequency. So to link a couple of ideas together here on why it is that sound could be the medicine of the future and why vibration and sound has so much effect on us. Well, it's because we are frequency. We are vibration. We are an aggregation of atoms that come together to take on this shape, this physicality, this body. And so when we're exposed to frequency, when we're exposed to sound, it has an effect on us. The most obvious one, of course, is music. We can sing certain songs that will make us feel really good. Why does it make us feel so good? The vibration is coming at us from all angles. If we're listening to the music on really good speakers that are moving air and moving sound in the room, we're getting all the frequencies of that music going right through our body. If we're singing along with it, well, we're now experiencing the frequency and vibration from within, from inside and from outside. And so it goes right through us. And that's why we love music so much. Another great name of the past is Shakespeare, who said that music is the food of the soul. So now it's a question of finding the frequencies and sounds that come together to actually do something for us, have an effect on us. And there are many, many ways. The one, of course, that I'm talking about today and talked about all week is incorporating a sound on the exhale. And I'm going to cover that in a little bit. But I also want to point out a few things that we use for healing and for making us feel better. And one is these, the tuning forks. These tuning forks are set to certain frequencies. Now, there are nominal frequencies that we can agree on that have a certain effect on us. And 108, for instance, is seen as a frequency that is the frequency of the universe. So when we say the frequency of the universe, what does that mean? Well, again, you've got all kinds of frequencies, all kinds of vibration that make up the vibrational universe. And then when you put it all together, there's this nominal frequency. There's a nominal sound. And that frequency is what we're talking about when we talk about that nominal frequency. One of the big central frequencies, again, 108. When you take the 108 and you double it and double it again, you end up at 432. 432 is a very important frequency in our conversations on frequency. Beethoven, Mozart, for sure, Mozart, Verdi, they're very great composers in the past who actually based all their music on 432. 432, what does that mean? It means that the A, so you got a keyboard, you got the piano keyboard, and when you get to the A in the middle there, today is tuned at 440. 440 is something that happened. There are different stories around it, why it was changed from 432 to 440. But everything is relatively tuned to that A440 today. And in the day of, in history, it would seem that 432 was the center. And Mozart and Verdi and all these other composers actually composed their music with that 432 reference note. These basically put out frequencies that, we choose keys that resonate well with us. And so this is the 128. 128 again is another one of those foundational frequencies. In health, it is seen that the 128 is a resonance that's very beneficial to aligning our cellular structures, restructuring ourselves in a way. And so how these things are used is the tuning forks are used by just getting the vibration. I don't know if I'll be able to do this, but these frequencies can come through. So the 128, which is again a frequency that is very central to our vibration, and the way that these get used essentially is you get it vibrating, and then you put it right on the bone, right on the joint. The bone resonates and carries that frequency throughout us. And when you're doing it along the spine, for instance, you can have certain release points along your spine where you're just basically vibrating that area. What happens with vibration, if you think about so many things we can do to settle things down, as simple as pouring concrete. You pour concrete, and if you vibrate that concrete, all the air bubbles will basically come out. The air bubbles leave the concrete and you end up with a solid concrete. And if you were to cut the concrete, you would see that there are no air bubbles in there. But when you don't vibrate it, you would cut that concrete in half and there'd be all these air pockets in there. So vibration vibrates and lets everything settle into its naturally structured state, its natural state, whatever that is. And with vibration on our bodies, what we're doing is we're giving the body the opportunity to get rid of those bubbles, to get rid of stuff. And so you are giving your body the opportunity to shake out, to vibrate out things that you don't want to have in there. This is another key. This is the 64. This is one of my favorites. This is a very large one. The weights that you see on the end, by the way, these are weighted. They are just there to help it vibrate longer, for a longer period of time. That's what the weights are all about. A lot of purists will not even use a tuning fork that has the weights on it, but they're engineered and they are measured. But again, the way that this is used is you get it vibrating and you put it on the bone, you put it on the spine, you put it on muscle tissue, you can put it on various parts of your body, just to sort of help that area recenter itself. You can call it restructuring, realignment, that sort of thing. We use Tibetan bowls. This is another one I'd like to show you guys, is the Tibetan bowl. Now the Tibetan bowl, pound it into a certain shape and put out a certain frequency. And now these are sounds that I use to get started on a meditation, and basically you just follow the sound. Follow the sound into infinity. And when it disappears, you won't be sure when it disappears. That is the moment that you are in that infinite moment. And if the thoughts take over, and if it all becomes, muddled again with worries and all the mental noise that takes up our space, you basically can bring it back with the sound. You come back to it. These are also called singing bowls. This is the singing sound that it can make. Again, I utilize these sounds as a vehicle, and you can use that to get yourself back into the meditation, back to away from mental noise, getting rid of those thoughts. Getting rid of those worries and those senseless ideas that just keep on coming around. Now those are external. Again, music is the most natural one. We sing, we listen to music, we listen to classical music, for instance. It's just strings and vibration, and it just makes us feel good. When we sing, we're doing it from here, and we add to the vibration of music coming through us and having an effect on us. When we use bells and these tuning forks, again, external and beneficial, for sure. But what I want to talk about is the making a sound on the exhale. So, as you know, of course, I teach breathing techniques all the time. I wrote the book, I Breathe, Therefore I Am. And in there I have all the explanations of what the benefits are and how it works physiologically, how it works psychologically. It's all in I Breathe, Therefore I Am. Here in the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel, the Elemental Living YouTube channel has breathing techniques demonstrated there. I demonstrate a different breathing technique. Every week or two, I add another one on there. They're accumulating. This week, what we're talking about is making a sound on the exhale. So I'm just going to do a quick one. There's a full video demonstrating this on the YouTube channel and on Facebook, but I'm just going to do it quickly here. So same thing. So back to the basics of filling the lungs. And you got to fill from the bottom up. So you fill your belly. You fill from the bottom all the way up and then behind your rib cage and then up into the upper chest area where most people are breathing. We tend to be using about 10 to 15% of our lungs. And so what we're trying to do now is establish way more surface area for absorbing oxygen and just working for us in the lungs. So fill. When we exhale with this vibration, it's happening right in our core, vibrating away. In the same way that the bubbles come out of the concrete when you vibrate it. When you vibrate anything, really, you're basically letting everything settle into its natural state, its natural place. And by adding sound to our exhale, we're just helping our body expel certain things. Now, we know that there's CO2 coming out, but there's way more than CO2 coming out of our lungs, way more. In fact, there are thousands of components, different chemicals, different elements that are coming out in an exhale. One of the things that's coming out that I want to bring focus to is that we are exhaling dissolved emotion. We're exhaling dissolved stress energy. So when you utilize a vibration like that, the frequency on the exhale, we're actually increasing the exhale into putting out more than just that CO2 and those basic chemicals. And when we get to that point where we're putting out emotional energy like that, dissolved emotion, it's a process of de-stressification. It's a process of bringing it down. One of the big techniques in breathing is to make the exhale longer than the inhale. So if you inhale for the count of 4, then exhale on the count of 8. You basically exhale for double the time that you inhaled. What happens with using a sound on the exhale is that automatically happens because you're holding back the air as you are putting it through the vocal cords and making sound. One of the fundamentals of relaxation in breathing is a longer exhale than the inhale. So if you exhale for double the time that you inhaled, you're utilizing a de-stressing, anxiety-lowering breathing technique. That's what's happening there. I'll cover a lot more of that as we go along. But frequency and vibration, being the medicine of the future, according to great scientists and great minds of our time and of the past, is a great thing to try to understand. And why is it that vibration and frequency can heal us and can help us? It's basic. We are vibration. We are an accumulation, an aggregation of atoms into this body, into this physicality, into this version of ourselves. So when sound is applied to us, it has an effect. And there are sounds that can really hurt us. We know that. There's certain, there's the horns, that can blare so hard that you cringe, One that we almost all agree on is the scratching of a blackboard, running your nails across that surface. That no one feels good about that. That's a bad sound. In terms of finding the nominal frequency that I talked about, so I talked about the tuning forks, I talked about the bell, this is the 128, which is seen as one of the central frequencies for reestablishing ourselves, for settling ourselves down, for creating a release point for releasing things that are unwanted. Let's just put it that way. Releasing things that are unwanted in a joint, in a muscle, in a certain area. And if we're hearing it and we're listening to it, then, it's basically happening for our mind as well. For thoughts, our subconscious self, subconscious thoughts that are not serving us, whatever, it's a way out. It's a way of vibrating it out. The soundtrack that we're listening to for most of this recording is a relaxation track that I have posted, so you can go to the Facebook page and see it there. And there are a lot to choose from, but they're not all created equal. So I've chosen this one. It's a recommendation. It's based on 432. So I talked about 432 earlier. The 432 as a nominal frequency, base frequency for the whole piece is very relaxing. And you can put it on while you're working. You can still function with these kinds of sounds in the background more than you can with talking interviewers and even music that we really like, where you end up singing along. Singing along is very nice for yourself. It feels good, makes you feel good. It's a great activity, but not necessarily what you want to be doing when you're being productive and working. As a writer, for instance, I can't have music on in the background while I'm writing. Although this track that you're listening to now, 432, I can have in the background, and it can, whether it helps or not, I don't know, but it's unobtrusive. It's unobtrusive, and it doesn't interfere with what I'm doing. And that's a nice feature to this kind of soundtrack. And I know that in the empty moments that basically that sound is soothing and does help me. So that was basically a wrap-up of last week's topic, which was sound breathing, putting a frequency out on the exhale. Very beneficial, something that just adds an extra layer of benefit to breathing, to deep breathing techniques, utilizing a sound on the exhale. It can be as basic as the Om. A lot of people, I don't present the Om necessarily off the start because not everyone understands what that is, but it's just a sound. It's not a religion. It's nothing more than a sound. It's just vibration. The 108 is seen as a nominal foundation or a nominal frequency for the universe, which means, like anything, when you have a combination of frequencies and sounds, there's an overall frequency. That's the nominal frequency. It's the foundational frequency that comes out of all of those frequencies. So just like we are very unique chemical signatures, we're all made up of certain chemistries. We're all different. That's why different drugs don't work the same on everyone, because our chemical makeup is unique to ourselves, and we have to choose chemistries, choose things that we take orally. We have to choose something that works with our chemistry. That takes a lot of experimentation sometimes. Just like foods. I mean, one person will be allergic to, gluten, and another person won't. And you say to yourself, well, why is that? We're unique chemical signatures. In the world of sound, we are unique frequencies. So all the vibration on the subatomic level of all the atoms that make us up, everything's vibrating. And in the end, there's a nominal frequency. There's a frequency that represents all that frequency. And that's the sound that we're looking for. So we have great guidance. We have great guidance with certain frequencies. We've talked about the 108, 108 with being sort of an Om frequency, where if we use that frequency, we're vibrating at the 432, by the way, because 108 times 2 is 216. 216 times 2 is 432. When a frequency fits mathematically into another frequency, it's said to be harmonious. That's a harmony. They are well, actually not harmony, it's the same note. It's just a different slice of that same note. Then when we start adding harmonies, like the fifth and the third, we get into higher complexity. But the nominal frequency is something that you need to find for yourself. There's a sound that's good for you. There's a sound that makes you feel good. Now, using the 108, using 432, using 128, using these key frequencies as a guidepost and guideline is very important. But when it comes to the sound that you're going to make on the exhale, you're going to find it. You're going to find that frequency that works for you. So when you find that frequency, when you find that sound, you're just going to gravitate to it on your own, and it'll just make you feel good. So, you'll just settle into the frequency that works for you. Another link that I encourage you to investigate is the link on Tibetan monks chanting. It's just a great sound. The monks go down into these very, very low frequencies in their chanting, and it's extremely soothing. I'll tell you stories about that on the next video. So that's the week wrapped up. We've dealt with sound, frequency and healing. What does it mean? How does it work? How do we apply it to ourselves? So thank you for joining me this week. Meanwhile, breathe deep, my friends.